Welcome to 30 Days of Remembering. I'm Shaman Gray, your host, and this is Ministry of Style Studios, a place, a space, a house for the sacred work of midlife, a gathering place for those of us standing at the threshold between who we have been and who we are remembering ourselves to be. With that, let's get started. Yesterday, I asked the question, what do you need? Not what do you want? What do you need? It's such a simple question, and there's something along the way. Many of us forgot what asking for what we need looks like. We misplaced the language of our own longing. So throughout this series, I want to hear from you. I really do. I want to know what you're carrying, what you're grieving, what you're curious about. I want to know. Okay. So what's our clue for today? Mangoes. I don't know about you. In our house, mangoes are common. They're pretty common. In every form. We eat them as much as we eat mushrooms, and that's a lot of mangoes. Just saying. And mangoes, they remind me of Jamaica, specifically summers in Jamaica. Most recent trip in Jamaica, I literally ate my weight in mangoes. They were so good. They were thick and fat, and oh my gosh. And with summer solstice only days away, it got me thinking about mangoes. Fitting, isn't it? The story has always belonged to summer. The story that came to me through thinking about the summer solstice, what our clue for today was going to be. And so mangoes, warm from the tree, juice running down my wrist. Sticky fingers, the smell of ganja drifting in the streets of Kingston, Michael Jackson singing through the crackle of a record player. Love that sound. It reminds me of simpler times and summers traveling to see my father. One jumps back into my awareness, however, time and time again, and that is I Want to Rock With You, floating through open windows and over walls. It was that year that album came out, and it was fire. Salt, it smells salt as we were playing those records in the air, and coconut oil, and yes, ganja, I think I said that, jerk smoke, and then there was this boy named David, and then there was this white dress. Strange things memory preserves, right? Stranger still the things it conceals. So, for years, I believed I remembered that summer because it was a summer I fell in love with Mama Jamaica. And here we are in midlife, and she's showing me something different. I remember it because it was the summer I first learned to distrust and unlove my body, like really unlove. It's the moment that I discovered incorrectly that something was wrong with me. Yeah. It was sometime around, it was 1980, 1982, but about maybe 1982. I think it was like 13 or 14. I entered high school pretty early, and Off the Wall had just come out, and I bought my first copy near a studio where Bob Marley used to record, and I paid for it, and I was so proud. Yeah, I was so proud. And my father was stationed in Jamaica, and as I often did, I spent my summer, this summer, with my family. I came alone carrying my blue hard-shelled Samsonite suitcase. And I think I might have even still been into Barbie. So I think, oh yeah, I had one of those little were they attache cases that flipped up that had a little mirror inside and a little ruffle pocket. Anyway, it was Barbie. It was pink. So I was in pink and blue. Boy, that's right there. That's significant. Ding, ding, ding. I have to remember that. I've always been about balance. And so, I arrived with this confidence, this confidence that really only young people possess. The confidence of having absolutely no idea what was about to change in life from this summer. I mean, I remember like it was yesterday. I remember the island as sensations, tangy spices, rotting fruit, reggae drifting through the air, incense, patois, pregnant girls my age wanting for clothes and food at our doorstep. Yeah. And the sea, she announced herself long before she came into view. I could smell it. I could smell water spirit miles away. And everything felt so familiar. It was like I had arrived somewhere my body, my bones already knew. Perhaps you've experienced this. A place that feels like discovery and more like recognition, less like discovery and more like recognition. A place that greets you before you introduce yourself, and a place that says, hey now, there you are. I've been waiting for you to return. Where you been? Years later at an ayahuasca retreat in Jamaica, I returned to Mama, and I felt the same way. I was home. Now, I spent my days helping at the American Embassy School to be close to my siblings who were in attendance there. I spent my afternoons swimming 3 times a day, sometimes more once things got a little bit weird with the fam. I spent my evenings with my father, whom I adored beyond language. Occasionally, we would do this thing where we'd slip away after everybody went to sleep and drive down to Ligony, and it was magic. I was alone with my dad. I had just, number one child time with my dad, and Ligony was so alive with music. It was alive with people selling things, people making something beautiful from very little. The Jamaica of diplomats and mountain homes existed, and so did another Jamaica that I didn't get to see very often up close. It was one that seemed to breathe through roadside cooking fires and market stalls where you could barter for stuff. That was totally new to me, and it moved with a rhythm that was completely its own, and it felt so unapologetically alive. Is that a word? Alive. And you know what? I loved both. I still love both. Somewhere that summer, I fell I fell in love with the island, and I fell in like with a boy named David. Oh yeah. He could have been a sibling. He didn't look that different than me, and that was interesting. His mom was our seamstress, actually, and his house, it carries a scent I can still summon decades later. Like, I can still smell that. And David and I spent many an afternoon listening to records, hunting for records, playing records, talking about records. We bought Off the Wall, actually, together. I paid for it. That was my feminism, like taking a front row at a young age. And yeah, or at least that's how the memory is chosen to preserve itself. I mean, we danced, we wandered, we occupied that beautiful territory between childhood and whatever comes next. And for years, I really thought David was the reason the memory remained so vivid. You know, the boy, the island, the music, the romance of it all. Midlife, however, showed me another layer that I totally didn't expect. And I see now that memory, it unfolds a whole lot like fruit. Season by season, layer by layer, the sweetness first, the deeper truths later. There was another quieter story unfolding that summer, one that is and was capable of shaping, decades. So, I remember we drove into Kingston one day to a row of shops where water was running down the streets. I remember it felt like New York, kind of dirty and familiar. And a child was actually defecating on the curb in front of our destination, and I was just kind of struck by an enormous amount of guilt, which overshadowed the excitement of the dress. Yeah, I was having a white dress made that I'd seen in Vogue, and I remember being so excited, and my dad was, you want that? Let's go pick it out. It was actually also the beginning of my obsession with white dresses. And that's for another story. The fittings, the dreaming, all of that, with that moment, it was gone. And I carried that sense of guilt into, it's still something that I'm getting complete with. Let's just put it that way. And that's like 3-4 decades later. Yeah. So, yeah. And when I think back on it, I realize that was kind of a foreshadowing of what was next. I was standing behind a curtain during one of the fittings, and the dressmaker was pinning the fabric. The adults were talking the way adults do when they think children aren't listening. When I shut the curtain and put my clothes back on, right? And then I heard it. She's a thick girl, isn't she? A single sentence, right? A single sentence small enough to fit in a breath and large enough to alter a life. Now, at that time, I had the body of an athlete. I had trained for years to be a professional ice skater. I ran track, I cheerleaded, I did all the things physical, strong, powerful. My body, it was built for movement, built for speed, built for swimming beneath a Jamaican sun. And in that moment, though, that was the moment I began seeing myself through someone else's eyes. A shift so subtle, I barely noticed it happening at the time. But I felt some kind of way. What I understand now is that I was in an initiation of many, an initiation into comparison and self-consciousness. into the belief carried by so many women, so many people actually in general, that our bodies are projects awaiting improvement, right? The summer I fell in love with Jamaica was also the summer I began what I would characterize as a slow departure from myself. That sentence, that one sentence right there, it took me decades to actually write. And perhaps that's why this memory returns to me now. The summer solstice is approaching, the longest day of the year, and she will simply arrive quietly. We honor her, and she's coming without a certificate or declaration or a whole lot of fanfare. She just comes. She comes declaring that she has survived everything you have survived, however. The light knows. She knows. The garden knows. The body knows. By the time we reach midlife, many of us have spent decades believing our worth lives somewhere ahead of us, in the next achievement, in the next relationship, the next version of ourselves, the next 10 pounds, the next beginning of whatever. Again and again and again. Summer offers another teaching, I believe. Summer is fruition. The seed becomes the blossom becomes the fruit. What once lived beneath the surface becomes visible. And this is why I've come to think of menopause and andropause as seasons of remembrance, revelation. The body begins speaking more clearly. The stories beneath the stories begin rising, and the memories waiting beneath memory begin returning in droves. And for a long time I wondered why. Then one day it occurred to me that memory isn't actually punishment, it's retrieval. The psyche gathering up the pieces of what left us behind in other seasons, other versions in other seasons. And solstice asks us to notice what is already blooming in us. You know, the wisdom that we have rightfully earned, the grief we've survived, the boundaries we are erecting, and the tenderness we are reclaiming. The self that remained after performance, every expectation, every show, every disguise. That's the holiness in summer. So a holiness in arriving, a holiness in standing in the fullness of your life and saying, this too belongs, this too is beautiful, this too is enough. Looking back, I feel tenderness for the girl in Jamaica. I didn't always feel that way. I was angry with her for some reason. The girl swimming laps beneath the sun, I felt she was broken. The girl eating mangoes like there was no tomorrow. The girl dancing to Michael Jackson. The girl falling in like with a boy named David. The girl standing before a mirror trying to understand who she was becoming. I love her. She had no idea that her strength would carry her farther than thinness ever could. And she had no idea that one day she would spend years finding her way back to herself. So when I think of summer now, I still think of mangoes. I still hear Michael Jackson. I still smell salt, coconut, ginnips, and roadside cooking fires. And mostly I think about ripening. There's something about that smell. It's not stale. The smell of the rotting fruits on the ground, that ripening, it's kind of sour, sweet in its sour, if you will. You know, how fruit arrives exactly as itself without apology, negotiation, or asking for, permission. Perhaps that's the invitation waiting for all of us in midlife to arrive, to ripen, to remember. Yeah, to remember. Today I want to leave you with a question. Surprise. I just want to know what summer memory keeps returning to you and what part of yourself might be waiting there to be remembered. Leave me a note, send me a message, tell me what you need, tell me what wants language, tell me what wants remembering. Until next time, move your body, drink the water, eat the fruit, protect your nervous system, tell the truth, and follow the clue. I'm Shaman Gray, and I am so grateful and glad that you are here with me on this journey. Remember,